To New York now, where scuffles have broken out at the Occupy Wall Street protests. It started out over 2 weeks ago. It was a few dozen demonstrators who tried to pitch their tents in front of the New York Stock Exchange. Well, now unions have added their voice to the thousands taking part. Well, Cath Turner joins us live now from New York. Cath, as we're talking to you, we're seeing the pictures. Things look like they're hotting up on the streets of New York. Just talk us through what's happening.
Absolutely, Darren. There's one word I can say for the protesters here after what we saw in the rally, and that is I think this group is now emboldened. I'm going to take you through what's happening here. This whole area has been transformed. If you can see, there's a line of policemen right beside me. In the last few minutes, they put up this barricade. That's because about 15 minutes ago, a call went up around the group for anyone who volunteers who are willing to be arrested to move to the front of the group. They did so, they locked arms, and they tried to push through the steel barricade to the top of Wall Street, just up here. They are moving beyond the permitted area of Zuccotti Park, which is where they are allowed to stay and camp and protest it. And that is when the police moved in. I'm going to get our cameraman to just show you a little bit of the street view here. You see the traffic has almost come to a standstill here. On the other side, there's hundreds and hundreds, possibly 1,000 protesters all the way down Broadway. We've also seen, our pictures might show it, that there has been pepper spray used on some of those people who were in scuffles with the police earlier. It's very much a different scene. I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. It's certainly a far cry from the scene that was here during a much more controlled march earlier today.
End the war, tax the rich.
Wall Street rush hour going nowhere fast. Lower Manhattan came to a virtual standstill on Wednesday as the Occupy Wall Street protest mobilised. What started out in mid-September as a couple of hundred people camping out in Zuccotti Park has mushroomed into a rallying cry of several thousand voices. Now adding their weight to the cause, several labour unions representing workers from across the country who say they have a lot in common with the protesters.
More importantly, there's an absolute disconnect between the decision makers in Washington, D.C. and the decision makers in Albany and New York State, between the money that they're making and what it's like for the average Joe to actually have to pay a rent, clothe children, feed children. They have no clue. They're clueless of what it's like to be an average, everyday, working stiff in New York City.
We want to get out there to tell people we need to tax the rich in order that we can maintain the quality care. We're losing nurses in the hospitals. People can't afford to live in the city any longer. We need to stop it.
Organisers of the rally are thrilled about their newest supporters.
What they mean is that our movement is expanding, that it's resonating with a wide sector of society.
Every sign, every placard carries a different message, but there is one common theme here. This is a rally against the wealthiest 1% in the United States of America and the growing gap between the rich and the poor. The police were also out in force, trying to keep the marchers on the sidewalk and the traffic moving in one of the city's busiest neighbourhoods. Hundreds of union members were waiting for the protesters at New York City Hall, swelling their ranks to the highest level so far.
You can't find a job!
Organisers of the Occupy Wall Street protest say it's too soon to tell if this will turn into an influential political movement, but most agree that it's born out of frustration and anger at a system they say is geared to help the rich.
If Wall Street isn't listening, I don't really think they're going to have an option to stop listening after a while.
Those who have been part of this protest since day one say they have renewed determination and the attention of the mainstream media. No one is sure when or how it will end, only that they will go on as long as they have a voice.
Cath, I suppose the question is the government and Wall Street likely to sit up and listen to the protesters?
Well, Darren, I'd say that they are listening. When you camp out like this for almost 3 weeks, right on the doorstep of your office, it might be hard for Wall Street to ignore them. But what the question is, will anything actually change? What's been interesting as we've been here throughout the day, some of those 1% that these people are rallying against, you can hear the police in the background there moving through. Some of the 1% we've been talking about have actually stopped and said to me that it's their money and their taxes that are actually paying for the 99% to sit in that park and be unemployed and get their message across. So they're saying, okay, yes, we're rich and we're wealthy, but I'm also paying to keep this country upright. We're paying for the roads. Our taxes are going to the medical insurance. They're saying this is not the right way to go about it. Will the government and Wall Street listen? I think it's hard to ignore them. The question is, will any policy change come of this? But when you look at the scene around here, there is definitely the feeling there is a very big grass movement going on. I can tell you that there's people of every race, colour, age, size, gender. This is very much a movement that is encompassing a lot of different kind of messages, and it definitely feels like a kind of a rage against the machine, if you like. It's against corporate government, greed, and the growing gap between the rich and the poor. What do they want? They still don't say they have one single message. They just want to be heard. And if they keep up this kind of presence and this kind of noise, it's going to be hard not to hear them.
All right, Cath Turner there on the streets of New York. Cath, thank you.